Beloved in Christ, it's a great joy to be gathered here on this significant night where we begin our preaching. The tribute which this Holy Thursday night celebration commences for us is simply a celebration of 3 days condensed into one. So this Holy Thursday night celebration, tomorrow Good Friday celebration, and the Easter Vigil celebration on Saturday, all are considered as one. And that's why after the celebration of this evening's service, we will not do the normal dismissal that the priest or the deacon would enjoin on the disciples. Go in peace, the celebration is ended. Tomorrow evening, after the veneration of the cross, we will also not be dismissed. All with a mindset that these 3 days are all connected in the celebration of the suffering, of the death, and the eventual resurrection of Jesus Christ on Easter Sunday. So it's a privileged time, very sacred moment for you and I. And it's a moment that the Mother Church also invites us to delve deeply and reflect upon the love of God, which led to his Son, Jesus, coming into our world to undergo the suffering and pain and the sacrifice of his life to save us. And that's what brings us to the evening's readings. The first reading from the book of Exodus gives us a narration of how the ancient Jewish feast of Passover came about. And in our second reading from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, Paul shares with us what he received from the Lord. And as way of tradition, he also says, what I have received, I also hand over, pass on to you. That the night before he died, Jesus sat at a table, received bread, blessed it, and said, this is my body. Received wine, blessed it, and said, this is my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant. And he enjoined on them, as often as you do this, do it in remembrance of me. The same sentiment is what God instructed Moses to also bring to the people of Israel in our first reading, the last verse of what we listened to. In Exodus 12:14, this is what the word of God says. This day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall observe it as an ordinance forever. In some translations, it is rendered, do this as a perpetual institution. And it is not by accident that the Lord Jesus would also instruct the disciples to also remember the single most important gesture of the offering of his body and blood. And he says, as often as you do this, do it in remembrance of me. And beloved, our gospel reading takes us to the first Holy Thursday event, when Jesus sat at table with the disciples, when he enacted this sacrifice. And as they sat at table, and him knowing what was at hand, what was going to happen in the rest of the evening, as I was reflecting, my reflection led me to delve into what must be on the mind of Jesus. Knowing that one of those who were at table with him was going to betray him. Knowing that that same night is when he's also going to be betrayed with a kiss. Knowing that that same night is when he's going to be arrested. Knowing that that same night is when he's going to be handed over to the powers that be and eventually be condemned to death. What must be on the mind of Jesus? Probably thinking of the betrayal, Thinking of one of those he had loved and chosen, giving him up. Thinking of the suffering that he had to go through. Thinking of what the pain that he had to endure is going to entail. No wonder in the night when he was praying, he was honest with his feelings and he went to the Father in prayer and said, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass me by. But he added, but not my will, but yours be done. He completely surrendered to the will of the Father, even as he knew what he was going to go through was going to be heavy upon him. That heaviness was on the heart of Jesus. That betrayal was on the heart of Jesus. That deception of the one he loved, one member of the disciples, was on the heart of Jesus. That suffering was on the heart of Jesus. He knew what was at hand, and he knew the pain that was going to be involved in that. Yet, he surrendered to the will of the Father. And perhaps, let's bring it to our time, here and now. What he did was, at the time that he sat at table with the disciples for the first time, centuries later, here we are, the new disciples, the new followers of Christ, also continuing the same tradition that he asked the disciples to continue. And as we also sit at table to commemorate such a great occasion, let's put ourselves in what's happening in our world. The virus that we have to contend with now, and the social distancing that we have been asked to undertake. What must be on the mind of Jesus? At least we've had some insight into what was on his mind at the time when he first sat at table with the disciples on the first Holy Thursday. But here and now, what must be on the mind of Jesus with this virus? Perhaps the same love with which he was ready to surrender his life is the same love that he is still also loving and pouring out into our world. Even as we are seeing some of our loved ones going through the suffering and the pain, and we looking on helplessly, that brings to mind one of our parishioners, Katie's parents, Mary and Roland. This morning, Katie tested. Dad has been taken to the hospital and he's having difficulty breathing, so now he's being put on the ventilator. So I picture what must be on the mind of Katie and the rest of his siblings. What must be on the mind of each one of us who perhaps have somebody, a family member, a loved one, going through this virus. What must be on the mind of us? Perhaps fear. Fear of the unknown. Perhaps dreading what will this virus bring to us. Perhaps your own life. You're worried about it. Am I going to go through this? When is it that I'm going to go through something that is a symptom of this virus? And perhaps seated here or listening to me, maybe you are asking yourself, the slightest headache or the fever you run, you're asking yourself, am I having this symptoms of the virus? And you are dreading. Sometimes the restlessness of it, the anxiety that it brings. And it's in the midst of it all that I will encourage each and every one of us to do exactly what Jesus did. He went to the Father in prayer. And he prayed, if it's possible, let this cup pass me by, but not my will, but yours be done. Perhaps that's what we can imitate in this time of crisis, in this time of the pandemic. And surrender completely to the will of the Father. And always remember, the will of God will not take us where his grace cannot keep us. The will of God will not take us where his grace cannot keep us. So for every situation that we go through, every challenge that we have, every problem and every pandemic that we may have to go through, God knows of the coming of that situation. And he had already prepared us and given us sufficient grace to be able to endure it. Will we trust him? Will we have faith in him? And we will surrender to him as Jesus did to the will of the Father. That one day we will also experience the glorification. When he enjoined on the disciples after he had humbled himself in washing their feet, instructing them, what I have done, do it to your brothers and sisters. Perhaps let us also imitate the humility of Jesus and the selflessness of Jesus in serving one another. And maybe service for people who are going through this crisis may not be the physical services that we are used to. Perhaps part of the service will be taking good care of ourselves and practicing the social distances, practicing what the scientists have encouraged for us to practice, so as to be able to bring a limitation to the infection rate that we're going through. Maybe that's what we may also be called upon to do in order to contribute towards helping us bring some end to this pandemic. And I pray God gives us the grace, gives us the direction, gives us the inspiration, gives us the motivation to be able to endure this time and to surrender completely to his will. Amen.
Amen.